So over the last week I've been working on a page in my grimoire exploring the word witch and what it means to me. So in this video today I wanted to talk about the ways that I've circled around the word witch, how I've walked away from it, how I've embraced it, how I've re-embraced it for a second time, and all of the different aspects that come into that word witch that play in our lives when we're walking on this spiritual path. Some of the things I touch on might resonate with you. It might give you some aha moments. Certainly pondering the word witch for me, both in my art studio and in my journal, has been really useful for grounding me back into my practice. So I hope in a way that by watching me work in my grimoire and listening to me as well, it might help or do the same for you, or at least give you some pointers to think on. So here we go. I'm going to show my grimoire page being built as well, all around the word witch. So for my grimoire page I've decided to draw just one of my goth twins dolls. These are some of my most witchy dolls and I love them. So when I think about the word witch, I think about the time when I very first encountered the word, and I've heard lots of people say the same thing. It was in the movies. That was my very first meeting with the word witch. The evil stepmom turned witch selling poisoned apples at a window. So Snow White, the Wizard of Oz as well, with the terrifying Witch of the West and her flying monkeys. Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent, who haunted my childhood dreams for years. They were evil, cruel, jealous, demanding, female, and that's all I thought the word witch meant. I never ever wanted to be the witch. I only ever wanted to be the princess in those tales. And I think a part of that as well was the fact that in my life as a kid I had jealous, scary, demanding, cruel women around me, and the word witch was thrown around as an insult. I was the fawning and often frozen archetype in that setting, the good girl running around trying to keep everybody happy. The witch and the princess, it would seem, had archetypes in my very earliest storyline, playing out in my reality. Eventually, as with all tales like this, the veil begins to drop and you begin to see people for what they are and see yourself for what you are as well. And I think it's then that the word witch first came back to me, this time as a call back to power, a call to fight back, a call to start owning my own yeses and my own no's. A call to become sovereign in my own life instead of just handing myself away. I found myself recognising that I did have claws. I was just keeping them hidden, and I brought them out to protect myself. And I realised then that there was a huge pot of power inside of myself that I had handed to others. And I think the word witch was a way of me reclaiming that power back. I think for me at that point, the witch and the princess archetype that I'd learned as a child, they merged, and I think we have both inside of us. I think there was a lesson initially of realising that I wasn't being honest with people because of a need to keep safe. I wasn't giving opinions, I wasn't having a voice, I wasn't telling people no when no was appropriate. So there was a abandonment of self in all of that the word witch allowed me to step out of, and it needed to happen as well. I had a lot of family stuff that I needed to fight my way out of. I had a divorce to fight my way through. I had children to protect in all of that. I think the claws that I discovered in myself were mama bear claws, but there was also an understanding that showing my claws and not people pleasing anymore didn't mean that I had to be cruel. I think you can be powerful without being cruel. You don't have to deny your own power in order to be a good person, which is what I'd been taught. And within that fight, there was an uprooting. The bad stuff really did hit the fan, and I did feel pulled out by the roots because I was. So I think being able to reroute myself through witchcraft, it was healing, it was power giving, it was healing, and it was a brand new archetype for me. It really was a merging of the princess and the witch for me. And I know that I've heard a lot of people say that they embrace the word witch as a call to power, as a call to a healing journey. That was certainly the case for me too. And I think that's wonderful to know that we can discover our own claws, discover our own power as well, own our yeses, own our no's, reroute ourselves in something way stronger than other people's cruelty or moods or approval. We can own our own story, own our own truths, own our own paths. And for some people, that just seems like an obvious thing, but for some of us, the idea of being able to do that is sparkly, brand new. And I think the word witch is sometimes the wrapping paper that truth gets delivered to you in. And of course, it's ironic that as a witch now, I've read the books called Wicked, the series of books called Wicked about Elphaba, and heard the true story of the Wicked Witch of the West. And even her story was told incorrectly to vilify the word witch. The latest Disney film about Maleficent, you hear her backstory about the fact that she was betrayed in love and had her wings torn out of her back, and yet we are gaslit. We're gaslit about the witches of our childhood and their stories. It was so wonderful to see those stories rewritten and to claim back those early witches in my psyche, to know that not always the truth is told. And that's still the same now in society. I think society is still gaslit about what it means to be a witch and about the witches that may be walking amongst them. So it still goes on. So it was a power giver and a open door to a healing journey for me. Also a real beautiful rooting place, a grounding place and a safety space. That's why I love the idea of the witch's circle. I love that idea of the protective power held within witchcraft and cycles and circles. I know that I started buying my girls flowers once I got us to a safe place. I buy my girls flowers every fortnight because I never got bought flowers, and I didn't want my girls to get to 50 and say nobody ever bought me flowers. So every fortnight I buy them a new bunch of flowers for their bedrooms. But those flowers now, I let them live full circle and then hang them up to dry on my window. I just delight in the circles all the way from start to end, life to death. That circle I find so comforting. I think that comfort within a circle was handed to me with the word witch as well. Those flowers, once they're dead, I grind them up into powder. I add other things in for death powder, which I use in my art when I want to disconnect from things in the art piece I'm doing. So I wanted to bring some of that death powder into this grimoire page about the witch, because there was a lot of releasing of all that old rubbish from the past in order to embrace the word witch. So the death powder just had to come into the grimoire page. So here is my art studio altar, and you can see I keep my death powder just in here, and I'm going to show you the flowers as well. All my girls' flowers, it's so full of energy. It's full of that like reclaiming of life and the death of the old life in the flowers that I buy for my girl. Those dead flowers are so full of love. It's a loving release of what has died, so I just had to include that on this Witch Grimoire page. Look, there are the flowers once they're fully dried. Some retain colour, some don't, but aren't they absolutely stunning? So did I just let the old things die like the flowers hanging up here at the window? Have I embraced the word witch fully and been completely okay with that? I have to say no. As with any healing journey, it's never a straight path, is it? And for me, certainly embracing the word witch has been a winding path. I actually took it out of my online bio a while ago completely, mostly because of something else I want to talk about linked to the word witch, and that is imposter syndrome. Now, I'm happy to embrace tarot reader, artist, gardener, poet, all the things I do. These things are fine with me, and yet here I was excluding the word witch. I caught myself viewing the word witch as purely a verb, what you do. Also, I've watched endless videos from different creators saying witchcraft is a craft, it's what you do, it's the doing, it's the practical of it. And here I was focused on divination, so I was happy to say I was a tarot reader, but could I really own the word witch if I wasn't doing spells? And spellcraft is where my imposter syndrome came in. I'd completely ignored the fact that my art feels like art witchery. It needed to be spells with cauldrons and flames and potions and oils and all the things that I saw other witches doing. Without doing that, I felt like an imposter. So I took the word witch out of my bios. If I'm not doing spells and potions, am I a witch? And for a while there, I said no, and I did really feel inferior. I almost took my channel down, actually. The word again was being defined for me by others. I was being defined for me by others. I'd fallen and circled back into that same old trap. And when you allow somebody else to define your spiritual path for you, then that's dogma. And I was giving my power over to dogma. I'd embraced the word to step away from being told who I was, to step into my personal power, to not be corralled by others anymore, corralled by the cruel or society or the male gaze, insisting on their way, their definition. And yet here I was again. I'd lost myself again. Not a real witch was a label I was happy to pin on myself from the imagined words of others. Should I even have a channel? I didn't even look like a witch aesthetically. I looked like a tired 55-year-old with a doll room. There was no cauldron aesthetic going on, and I looked really crap in dark lipstick. Most importantly, that spell thing, I wasn't doing any spells. I had stumbled over the word witch as both a verb and an adjective. I didn't fit the vibe, and I didn't do spells. And that wasn't totally true either. I was doing some spells, but just not enough for this imagined level of authenticity that I imagined was out there. Are you imagining a kind of platform of arrival of when you'll allow yourself to feel authentically a witch? Do you, like me, think stuffed octopuses and fairy lights not very witchy? Well, they might be. If you're me, they're going to be. And that's it. I think it's not allowing the word witch to be dogmatic. I could have stayed married or in a terrible family or in a Christian church if I'd have wanted to seep myself in dogma and the opinions and the validation and the descriptions of who I am by others. that isn't what our witchcraft is. I think being weirdly, authentically your own witch is just such a powerful thing to do. And over time I began to circle back round on the healing journey, which, as we all know, is ups and downs and squiggles and going backwards and forwards then back again. It's one of those types of journeys. But I realised that it's not just a doing word or an adjective to describe an aesthetic. It is a noun. The word witch is a noun. It can be just inherently who you are to your core, seeped through your bones and into your imagination and the liminal spaces that run within you. It can be in the way you think and the way that you make connections. It can be in the way you love, the way that you fall apart and then recover. A witch, the word witch, can truly be a noun. It can be who you are. And when I think about the word witch as a noun, I can stand in it proudly and securely and declare I am a witch. I refuse to be plagued by dogma anymore. I am going to define this practice for myself. I get to say who I am and what I am, and nobody else gets to do that anymore. Even if I never do another spell in my entire life, I am still firmly and truthfully and honestly a witch. There is no letting in any more thoughts or other people's opinions that begin with the phrase "you're only a witch if." Insert their idea there. You're only a witch if, and then normally it comes with an action. You do this or you do that, or you say this or you look like this. That is now not in my landscape, and I hope it's not in yours either. We as witches have to stand firm in what we believe our witchcraft practice should look like. Of course, if you're in a coven that works a certain way, or if you are affiliated within like a certain group like Wicca, there are going to be rules within that. But if you're standing in that umbrella, then you're hopefully embracing that as part of who you are anyway. So there are some rules. It's not a completely ruleless land that we're in, but they should be rules that you have looked at and are happy and can stand firmly within. It's up to you to define the word witch for you. I get to validate me now moving forward. So for me as a witch, I can say that I now recognise and walk with the deities that were with me long before I even knew I was on this path. Those deities are mine. I can pick up black feathers in a field and put them on my altar, and for me they came from the Morrigan. That's my witchcraft right there. I can build myself a doll room and fill it with a lifelong collection of Barbies that I was never allowed to display. For me, that's standing in power, and it might not be black and cauldron-y. It might be way more Barbie than cauldron, but for me it allows me to channel whispers and voices. It is for me a witchy doll room. I have learnt to not dismiss anymore my magic as, oh, that's just my imagination. For me, the imagination is a liminal space inside of me where some seriously witchy shit goes down, and it should be for you too. If you catch yourself saying that's just my imagination, embrace it as liminal space within you. What's going on there? That's pure magic being downloaded, being channeled, coming in and opening up doors for you. There is no such thing as just my imagination. As a witch now, I will pick up a bell rather than a smoke, to walk around the house ringing bells, to use sound to cleanse it whenever the energy feels off for me. I recognise those things and I allow those things to be real. Now I've embraced the word witch. I will stand in graveyards or anywhere near bones and hear whispers, and now I recognise them again as not just my imagination. Those whispers have brought true stories into me. If I find a story or a whisper, I will follow it from the start to the end of the story. I think those things come to you for a reason. I am a story chaser now as a witch. I will buy way too many books and read and read and read as a witch. I will recognise that the wisdom and the witchy shoulders that we stand upon as we move forward, and all the wisdom that came before. I love that side of witchcraft, the study and the reading and the fellow witches around us. It is just so full of richness and life. I will walk barefoot on the grass in the morning to change state and to feel a calm come into me that I know doesn't come from myself. And I will recognise that as a bigger power inherent in the world around me that I can connect into now. I will cry at the beauty of the moon at night, and I will seek the moon out to feel that cord between the two of us that helps to keep me feeling safe and grounded. I will collect stones and shells and dirt in jars, and I will divine from anything you put in front of me. And I will see that connectivity in all of those collected things and the stories that are evolving in my life. And I think that idea of connectivity is such a key thing for me about what the word witch means for me. To be a witch is about connection, spotting the connections, connecting it all together. It is a layering, it is a connecting. That's why in the piece I'm doing in my grimoire, it is very layered and it has a web cut into it. It's almost like to be a witch is to stand in the middle of a spider's web and for the whole universe to be attached, pinging little messages and whispers to us. It's a connecting in of everything, and that is where the magic is found. The word witch and the connectivity of everything, can you just feel that within your own practice? Nature, planets, flowers, deity, animals, ancestors, the moon, earth cycles, it's all in there. If you plunge your hands into the soil, can you feel it? I can when I do. When you dive into the ocean, can you feel it? Can you feel it when you pathwork into a tarot card pulled in front of you? Can you feel it in the dimensions and time that you can travel through as a witch? Can you feel it through a call to deity, to the wisdom of everything that came before and is still to come? There is access to it all. I think there is a connectivity in the word witch that goes even beyond the framework of time that we know. For me, I call that the river that runs both ways. That's how I imagine it in my mind. I think the connectivity of the witch is why for me my art practice is such a natural portal to have opened up for me to fall into, like the most beautiful rabbit hole to fall down. My art practice, which has been with me since I was that little girl trying to be the princess, has always been about making connections. That's how my art ideas and my art exhibitions develop. That's how my languages of symbols hold worlds of meaning within them. That's how they've been formed, by connecting them with something else. For me, those repeating lines at the back of the figure, that means liminal space, dissociating. They were drawn over and over again when I was in really bad situations in my marriage, as a way of dissociating, of separating, of escaping into the liminal. They're a big part of my witchcraft, and I still feel that when I draw them. It's experience and life connected into my art practice. That's why I think just sitting down and drawing for me is a spell in itself, and there was me saying I never do spells. So shapes and lines can become a shorthand for entire languages and descriptions of life phases and life experiences, the blindingly good and the tragically awful. They're all there. It's connecting life to many aspects of not only visual or textual or written landscapes, but also finding connections and patterns within life itself too. With my art practice, I was already embracing so many aspects of witchcraft before I'd ever picked up the word witch to try it on. So practicing art also has become a liminal space to meditate within and to feel that mist creep in from somewhere else. For me, sitting at my desk and working like this brings in the other world. I slip into a different place, the astral. I hear whispers, I get downloads, things that aren't my own. There is a point in every artwork that I do that the piece takes over, the artwork itself takes over, other voices take over too. I'm no longer steering the ship, I'm no longer the one making decisions. There's something else coming in that makes the decisions for me. I felt that before as well when I used to run a lot. I used to race half marathons and I used to train like 50 miles a week running, and the rhythm of my feet would dissociate me into the liminal, and then downloads for artwork ideas would come in then. And I see that when I see people beating shamanic drums to meditate, it's that rhythm, and there is a rhythm of working at my art desk as well that puts me in that state. It is a state change that allows me to connect, and I think through that connecting in my art studio as an art witch, it's been a way of me to expand the map of who I am, the map of what I know, to bring in other worlds. It is truly magical. It is truly doing witchcraft as a verb. And I think sometimes the things that we naturally do and are naturally good at, and we've always done, we're the first people to discount that, because it might be something we've always done. Like I've always drawn and glued things together and delighted in textiles from the tiniest girl, like pre-5 I can remember doing this. So I think those things that we're good at, that we've always done, I think there's magic held within those things that we can so easily discount because it's so natural to us. We don't see it as anything special because it's just inherently who we are. Surely the things that are truly special and truly magical must be the things that we have to work super hard at to learn. But I would suggest today that if you are wanting to find a way to embrace your witchiness for you, look to those things too that you've done forever, that are naturally something that you find yourself drawn to. Where are your skill set? What have you always done that you love? That just might be where your witchiness and your witchhood and your witch as a verb and as an adjective and as a noun is hiding. That might be where you can go and pick up your word witch just for you. So thank you so much for listening to me talk about some initial thoughts around the word witch, and for watching me complete a grimoire page exploring that connectivity and safety and power held within the word witch defined for ourselves. I hope that that has given you some food for thought for you to embrace and hold the word witch as your version of the word witch, however wild that may be. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This also was a prompt from Mab Graves' Drawloween prompts for the drawing challenge of October. The word witch is now drawn and I have loved every second of it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.